Good evening, grave robbers, and welcome back to the television graveyard. We are your TV necromancers, Laura Prince and Noah Houlihan. We have come here tonight to examine the spirits of past television shows, to find out which ones could be resurrected, should be resurrected, and which ones should just stay doomed. This podcast will explore the history, the hype, and the aftermath of shows that ran only one season or only one episode. With me as always is TV's Noah Houlihan.
My heart is your slave.
We're doing an old one today.
Yes, this is a 1957 pilot.
Yes, it aired in 1960 but was produced in 1957.
This is Maggie.
Yes.
Now, before we get into this, I want to bring up this very interesting situation we found ourselves in.
Right.
We were originally going to do Hollyweird because we thought it'd be funny to do another show about television, just because we just did that and we talked about how we do that very often here on the show.
And we were kind of like, whatever, when they count down to 250, we'll just keep doing showbiz. It'll be fine.
Yeah, that'll be fun. And Laura had found this thing on like TV Tropes about it. We started watching a pilot, and we kind of side-eyed each other after the opening scene. And we're like, I don't think this pilot's real. And then we looked into it, we realized we were watching a different pilot called Hollyweird.
Yes.
There is a TV pilot called Hollyweird that is like a 48-minute pilot.
Yes.
We were watching something that was a half hour that was clearly a self-produced pilot that was probably, we didn't really do a lot of research into it, but was probably never considered to be picked up by any company because it was just self-produced. I think the video we watched had like under 500 hits on it. So
yeah, we didn't realize it.
So I thought I would start by asking you a question, the Stay Doomed listener. Is that a pilot we cover? Would we cover something that was never really even considered to be a TV show? Just made on a hope and a prayer?
I mean, I wonder because there is precedent for us doing web shows.
We have done web shows, but I think this is different. Like, web shows are fully produced shows. A self-produced pilot is something that someone is creating in the hopes that someone will consider it.
Yeah.
And there's no way to really know if this was even ever considered by a network anywhere. That's a very interesting thing to cover because we talk about the history, the hype, and the aftermath. In watching a pilot like that, there is no history, there is no hype, and there is no aftermath. It's just a thing that got made that no one saw. So I don't know if covering that is just mean, because we're kind of picking on it, but
I mean, I think we won't know whether it's okay to cover unless we watch the whole thing.
that's true.
Because I think there's a very big difference between if we really enjoyed something and covered it, that was like a never was, but it was a pilot made for hope, made by an independent creator with hope.
Yes.
I think if we really enjoy it, it's totally fair to cover.
Yes.
To get eyes on it.
Yeah. The issue is if we watch it.
If we don't like it.
And we don't like it, I definitely don't want to then not make an episode of Stay Doomed out of it because we spent the time to watch it. So just interesting food for thought. And for those of you who were hoping for Lord Bravery, can't find one of the cartoons. We could just buy the whole series on DVD of Freakazoid, which we've considered, but we can't find the sewer one. We can find the office meeting one, but we can't find the sewer one. So that's where we're at on that. And Dog Police update.
What?
I have no Dog Police update.
Oh my god.
And that was your Dog Police update.
I was so afraid for a moment.
Do you have any further ado before we can get started?
I've got some good news.
Oh, we have further ado.
We will be able to do Lord Bravery in the near future.
Okay.
my public library has the Freakazoid DVDs.
Okay, cool.
So I'm going to make use of my friendly neighborhood public library, which is one of the best things that any town can offer you, and I'm going to go check out the Freakazoid DVDs.
Because you don't have to go far when you got a library card.
I was thinking books for you, books for me at the library.
Yeah, but we're renting DVDs. So that's a less appropriate song.
What story, Wishbone?
I don't even know how that connects anymore.
I just like Wishbone.
Without any further ado.
I feel like that's going to be the next piece of merch. Just sadly. I just like Wishbone.
Without any further ado, let's get into Maggie.
So, the credits are cute. The credits are like written in a book.
Yes, kind of a la Winnie the Pooh-ish.
And we meet Anne and Mark Bradley.
Yes.
Who are married Broadway actors.
Yes, it starts with narration.
Yes.
From Mark Bradley, who's like,
"The attractive woman is my wife, Anne Bradley."
And I was like, okay, interesting. But then the narration goes too far. Mm-hmm. Where it's like,
"You see us now on the patio of our new home in the quiet, old-fashioned little town of Hunters Ferry, Connecticut."
So I was like, well, we have eyes. You don't need that part of the narration.
It's
show, don't tell.
It's very much too much exposition.
And certainly don't do both.
Nothing ruins a show like too much exposition. Or bad title, even. That could ruin a show pretty good.
That's from You're in Town.
Yeah.
So
they just moved into Hunters Ferry, Connecticut, which is like a sleepy little town.
Yes.
Ostensibly kind of an old money, very old-fashioned conservative town. And we now meet their daughter, who is not adjusting well to moving from the bustling metropolis of New York City to this sleepy little burg. And their daughter is 17-year-old Maggie.
Maggie. They have this little repartee, and I wrote down this line. I don't remember the context of it. But suddenly he says, "Amelia Earhart, she'll show up."
Oh, there is a point where Mark and Anne are talking about Maggie.
Yes.
"She's having trouble finding trouble to get into. Just give her a little time."
"Give who a little time?"
"Amelia Earhart. She'll turn up."
Excuse me for not knowing my history, but when did Amelia Earhart go missing? Is this joke, like, a little uncouth?
No.
Or did she go missing in, like, the 20s?
Amelia Earhart disappears in 1937.
1937. Okay.
So it's been about 20 years.
It's been 20 years. Okay. I guess that's okay, then.
Yeah, like, 20 years. I'm trying to think of...
I mean, like, today people make jokes about, like, the Kennedy assassination, so I guess...
But nothing bad ever happens to the Kennedys.
Exactly.
But it's been about 20 years. 23 once this airs.
Right, gotcha.
And their neighbor is building a cement privacy wall between her backyard and the Bradleys. Because the Bradleys are annoying.
So then Maggie does like a weird monologue out of nowhere to kind of show that she's quirky.
Yeah, she does this long... she's sympathetic toward the neighbor, Mrs. Caldwell.
Yes.
And invents whole cloth a tragic romance between Mrs. Caldwell and a river gambler.
"There's Miss Caldwell. What a poor, lonely, tragic figure she is."
"Easy, Maggie."
"I bet she had a very unhappy love affair when she was young. And she fell in love with a handsome Mississippi river gambler and gave her innocent heart. And she was happier than she'd ever been. And then one night, she came home and found him in the arms of another woman. And as she stood there struck dumb, the handsome brute laughed at her. Laughed right in her dumbstruck face. At that moment, something in her died. Something beautiful."
And then Mark goes, "Why don't you go unpack the trunk, the big long trunk that's still in there. And she says, if you want me out of the way, you'd better find better ways to do it.
Yes. So she's like, she's clued into what he's up to. And then the press shows up?
Yeah, a reporter and a photographer, Mr. Baldwin and Ms. Golden.
Yes.
And they are rude as hell.
I don't understand this. They sit down, they are offered lemonade, they refuse laughter.
Oh, here's some lemonade, Miss Golden.
No, thank you.
Mr. Baldwin.
Thanks, no. I suppose...
I don't know if something's just been lost in the, 60 years since this came out. But I don't understand why it was like... they refused the lemonade.
There's a line here I can't stand, because they're talking to Mark. They're clearly coming in to, attack these people. You think it's going to be, a human interest piece of these famous Broadway actors have moved to town. But then they say, isn't it true on your last show the cast agreed to take a 50% pay cut if Maggie could be banned from the theater? Maggie's a child.
Yes.
Maggie is now 17. You could be talking as young as 16 or 15. They're talking about a child.
Yes.
And there's no establishment of Maggie being a child actor.
No.
There's no establishment of Maggie being a public figure in and of herself.
Mm-hmm.
Maggie is played by Margaret O'Brien, who is a child actress, and we will get into that a little bit later. But there's no establishment of the character of Maggie being an actress.
Right.
However, she is very dramatic.
Yeah, I have two takes on this. One, I think it is commonplace at this time in television for younger characters to be scamps. This is coming off of things that already existed, like Dennis the Menace.
Yeah.
Because Dennis the Menace is older than this. And I believe so is, Leave It to Beaver. So the idea of, oh, she's a scamp is nothing new in the world of, tropes of television at the time. The other thing is, it feels like this is about actor discrimination. Because this is kind of this common thing that happens where actors will try to tell stories about being an actor, and we can't relate to it because we're not actors and that's not commonplace. I feel like this is criticism that I've given Stay Doomed show after Stay Doomed show after Stay Doomed show, where I, as common folk, can't relate to the life of an actor. And they're being like, God, it's hard. The press is mean to us.
To me, I think this in particular case, it is weird because they come in and the press is unnecessarily mean to two people who have moved somewhere to be private citizens.
Mm-hmm.
And they're also attacking a child.
Yes.
I know, Dennis the Menace, younger characters being scamps, Beaver and Dennis the Menace. This is going to be in a newspaper.
Yeah. Because I also have the note here that basically one of the questions is, sorry, I don't mean to pry, but does your daughter suck?
Yeah, it's very weird. So Maggie then promptly comes in a Crusades-esque outfit. Being, regal and weirdly fake.
Yeah.
I have a note of, Crusades? Joan of Arc?
I also wrote down Joan of Arc.
I can't really tell what she's supposed to be. She's regal and weirdly fake before she gets sent inside. And I have the next note of, we really didn't study neurodivergence in girls.
Oh, I don't make that note yet, but it's coming.
I have that note immediately, because I was like, she kind of strikes you as being somewhat neurodivergent. Of not really knowing... of everything being very, performative, because she isn't comfortable with the social situation. And she goes in, and her dad goes and talks to her, and she goes, that's the way they expect us to act. We mustn't disappoint our public. And he goes, can you please act like a normal 17-year-old girl? Mm-hmm. And then there's a little cute moment where they both go to the door, and he goes, never crowd your exit. Mm-hmm. Which changes my perception of their relationship a little bit, because clearly she's being raised by actors to be an actor.
Yeah.
Like, which changes my perception of the previous, if Maggie could be banned from the theater. Of, like, did they have the clout to, like, give Maggie a small part and she was annoying in the way that a teenager given a very large responsibility can be? So then she comes out and she starts play acting as being a normal teen, but she comes off like Patty Simcox in Grease.
Yes.
Specifically Patty Simcox.
Yes, I'm just a normal 17-year-old girl.
The theater? Me? Oh, goodness, what does an ordinary 17-year-old like me know about the theater? I don't suppose you have any bubble gum, do you? No, I suppose not.
And this is where I just write, oh, Maggie does suck. Because she knows what she's doing at this point. Like, she's being purposely obtuse. And, like, kind of stirring the pot here. But my feelings of that will then change.
I actually get the impression at this point that we don't establish this enough in this episode. She's miserable.
Yes.
And the next scene sort of establishes that. It does, this is going to be a weird sentence. It's less elegant than Dad's a Dog.
Okay.
At establishing, I have been moved out of New York and I hate it. Mm-hmm. The daughter in Dad's a Dog actually is clearer about, like, I hate being here, I miss home. And we even said, like, we didn't understand what she missed in Dad's a Dog.
Yeah.
But Maggie actually is even less clear. And then we get this next scene where the mom comes in and Maggie just feels, she says, I feel maladjusted. Mm-hmm. This is also, to me, in 1950s teenage culture, there was kind of this, like, teenage panic begotten of, like, the James Dean movies and rock and roll and of young people being kind of lawless and getting away from their very conservative post-war upbringings. And her using the term maladjusted reminded me specifically of West Side Story. Have you seen West Side Story? Any version of it?
It's been quite some time.
In West Side Story, the Jets have an entire song called Gee Officer Krupke, where they essentially satirize and make fun of all of the things people say about teenagers.
Right.
So, you know, oh, I have to get a job. Oh, I have to see a social worker. Oh, I have to see a shrink. And all of these different people's hot takes of what's wrong with the youth today. Mm-hmm. So when she says I'm maladjusted, that feels very much like a young person who is reading the newspaper.
Yeah. Saying,
like, this is what they're saying about teenagers now. Mm-hmm. Because the 1950s was a big kids these days era.
Yeah. So, her mom suggests the idea that she hangs out with Weird Willie.
Yeah.
And she says something like,
Oh, you don't know Willie. There wasn't such a word as weird. You couldn't describe him.
And that hit me personally because my parents, when I was very, very young, used to use the word weird to describe various people in my life.
Okay.
And I realize now, as an adult, that those people were neurodivergent. We just didn't have the words or the understanding to talk about it. So I was like, wait a minute. Is this 1957 neurodivergent show? And then we meet Willie, who seems to have, like, a hyperfixation on his microscope. And I was like, okay, these are people who don't understand this trying to write about this. So we get this very strange scene where Willie's just trying to use his microscope, and Maggie's just being this, like, strange, performative Maggie that she is.
And she's also just seemingly on purpose being annoying.
Yes.
Like, he tries to hide from her, and so she pretends to leave, and then, like, creeps up on him.
Like, jumps out, yeah.
I do love what happened here, though. Mm-hmm. She's goes, I'm suffering from ennui. That means boredom. Parlez-vous français, Willie?
Yes.
And then he answers her in perfect French.
Yeah, then they just speak French for a while, and I was completely left out because I don't speak French.
I mean, he was intentionally establishing that not only does he speak French, he speaks it better than her, and it's done to make her shut up and go away.
Gotcha.
Because once she doesn't understand, she gives up.
She doesn't give up. She hexes him.
Oh, that's right.
She curses him.
All right, Willie Foster, be a bad neighbor. Refuse the hand of friendship. But you're going to have nothing but bad luck from this moment on.
You leaving now?
Yes.
I only hope the luck keeps up this bad, and goodbye, Tovarich.
And when I say when Noah says she curses him, I want you to picture Danhausen. Because it's the same physicality as when Danhausen curses someone.
Yes, the arms going out, and she curses him with bad luck, and she's like, oh, you're leaving?
And he goes, I hope this bad luck lasts.
Yeah. And that's a wrap on Willie.
This is a pilot. They're clearly trying to establish Willie. I couldn't tell how old Willie was supposed to be.
Totally clueless on that department. Were they peers?
That's what I couldn't tell.
Or is this a Mr. Wilson-like situation?
I couldn't tell.
Yeah.
Because he looked considerably older than her.
Yeah.
But between, like, Dawson casting of, like, he very well could have been... She's 20. When this, maybe 19 when this is... probably 20. She's 20 when this is filmed. He could be 25 and just look substantially older than she does. Mm-hmm. But it's not great.
No. So then Maggie goes to talk to her neighbors. And there's
Mrs.
this
Caldwell and her hired man Whitaker.
Yes. And there is this weird
Mr. Smithers.
Yeah, basically.
There's a reason I went with her Mr. Smithers and not like her Niles or her Lurch. It's very much like that yes man. Why does he live with her?
It's very odd. And it makes sense that with that type of situation, that Maggie would invent some sort of romance. She approaches her neighbor and she says something immediately along the lines of, hello, sir. You're wearing trousers, so you must be a boy.
Yeah, she says, like, oh, okay, young gentleman. And she's just super rude about the fact that Maggie is wearing pants.
Yes, because in the 50s... that would be insane for a woman to be wearing pants. Oh, the scandal.
I mean, it's very period appropriate.
Yes.
It's very much what that would look like.
Mm-hmm. And she's the villain of this part of the conversation.
Yeah, she's a stodgy, stick-in-the-mud type person. And it's also to kind of establish her as kind of sucking.
Yes. They have this, weird argument. And, Maggie's trying to kind of imply that there's a relationship between the two. But, it's almost like she's expecting them to know the story that she's made up in her head. Because she ends the argument with, I should have known all Mississippi River gamblers are alike.
She's not saying anything about the relationship between the two people. That's not what she's applying. She's yelling about the story she made up about Mrs. Caldwell and this imaginary lover who left her long ago.
Oh, I thought that was also about him.
No. her hypothesis is that Mrs. Caldwell is terrible because she loved and lost.
Okay.
And so she is implying that, like, oh, this bitter old woman. So then she is yelling at this bitter old woman. Mm-hmm. Whittaker's not really a factor yet.
Okay.
So then we meet Esther, who is the Bradley's maid, who is a very dry, practical woman. And this sort of establishes the Bradleys as being, you know, fairly upper middle class because they have hired live-in help. Mm-hmm. And Maggie spins a yarn about Whittaker and Caldwell being in love with one another.
Right.
And Esther is so invested in the story, she yells out the window, "Just tell her already!"
Yes.
Which is cute. And Maggie decides she is going to essentially parent trap the two of them together.
Yeah, she's going to play Cupid. So she sends them both a note by throwing it through their window. Like, not through the glass, but through an open window.
Yes.
With the idea that they would each find it, think the other wrote it, and then be honest about their feelings.
Yes. That was the plan.
Yeah. Mr. Caldwell, right?
No, he's Mr. Whittaker. She's Mrs. Caldwell.
Mr. Whittaker reads his first.
Yes.
And immediately gets up and opens the liquor cabinet and checks to see if the liquor had been drank.
Yeah, because it says, "You're not only in my employ, you're also in my heart."
Yes. And then storms off. And then Miss Caldwell sees hers, which says something along the lines of...
My body is your secretary, my heart is your slave.
My heart is your slave.
And then she gets up and also checks the liquor bottle, which is pretty funny.
And I want to point this out. She very clearly checks a line that's on the bottle to see if it had been drunk. And this is something that if you grew up with a dad with a liquor cabinet, your dad would draw a line to where the liquor was. So if it had gone missing, the liquor would be below the line that was drawn, and he would know, oh, someone had been drinking the liquor. But if your dad drinks the liquor often, he would have to then redraw the line, and he wouldn't keep track of how many lines there are. So if you drank it, all you had to do was draw a new line.
My parents trusted me, so, can't relate.
Ah. Well.
Yeah, no.
Just saying I knew how to draw lines.
No, we just had a box of wine in the fridge. I could...
You know you can't draw a line on the bladder?
Yeah, I could have just gone to town on that. I just didn't, because I valued my parents' trust. Also, boxed wine in the 90s and 2000s, not the quality that boxed wine is today. I was allowed to have it one night at dinner when I was a little, like, 16 or 17. They said, like, oh, you can have one, it's your birthday, you can have a glass of wine with dinner. And I was like, this is horrible. Why would anyone do this to themselves on purpose?
Good.
And to this day, I still don't really like wine.
Yeah, I'm not a wine guy either, to be honest. In any case,
they get into an argument, she fires him and he quits.
Yes, because neither of them will tolerate hanky-panky. And there are a few lines in here where the joke is, how can you like sex? You're old.
Yeah.
And I might also point out that you're a fool to try and get another trip out of that wagon of yours.
I would say that's close to one of the effing jokes. Old person wanting sex. Wow, wow, wow.
I feel like that's the entire plot of the movie X.
Is it? I haven't seen X.
No, it was a bit.
Okay. Any case, they get very, very upset, and then they start to realize, like, I read the note you wrote. I didn't write you a note. I read the note you wrote. I didn't write you a note. And they slowly start to put it together, and then they look out the window and they spot Maggie hiding amongst the bricks that they're using to build this wall.
Yes.
What happens next is one of the weirdest scenes put to television. And that's as someone who's done, 247 of these episodes. It cuts to her dad on the phone, and he starts by saying something along the lines of, "Tarred and feathered, you say?" Well, that sounds extreme, which I think is a funny cut.
Yeah, like implying Mrs. Caldwell has said Maggie should be tarred and feathered.
Yeah. And then he's like listening to what happened, and he's like, "I'll take care of it." And he hangs up, and there's this whole part where he's like, "I got to spank her." "Well, how do I spank a 17-year-old? "Will you hold her down while I spank her?" I was like, this is weird.
You can't spank a 17-year-old girl. Why not? She's too big.
Hey, Mark, what is it? What's Maggie done?
You could get someone to hold her. Do you think you could hold her? What? No, she's stronger than you.
Yeah.
Then we cut to Maggie talking to the maid in Maggie's room. And they have a conversation. And the whole time, the maid is casually eating a banana. And I was so distracted by this. Did you catch that?
No.
Yeah, the whole time she's just like, has a peeled banana in her hand. I was like, why does she have a banana? Why is the maid eating on the job in her client's bedroom? I thought that was so weird.
Oh, the next two scenes are really fun to me. Because Maggie's in her room whining about feeling misunderstood. And she's writing a grievous self-insert novel.
Yes.
This reminds me of the cartoon Doug.
This was a great call. When you mentioned Doug, I was like, oh, that's what this show is.
Where she imagines herself as Regina, this actress/lawyer. Mm-hmm. And she's in the courtroom putting her father on trial. Mr. Whitaker's the judge. Mr. Bailey, the journalist, is the bailiff.
Yes.
The prosecutor is Weird Willie. There's a dog on the stand.
Don't know where this dog came from.
And her lawyer's assistant is Esther.
Yes.
And Caldwell's on the stand.
Yes. And she is dressed like Janet Snakehole.
Yes.
Like with the big long cigarette and everything.
And she pulls off Caldwell's skirt dramatically to reveal Caldwell wearing trousers and short hair. And then I got suspicious when I saw a cigar with lipstick on it. Mm-hmm. And then she said, and then the judge says, like, well reasoned, Regina, but you are dressed a little oddly for court. And she goes, I'm so sorry. I just came from the Academy Awards dinner and I barely had time to put my Oscar down. I couldn't have time to change. And he goes, yes. Oh, that's quite all right, Regina. Mm-hmm. And her father comes in and goes like, come on, Maggie, 10 p.m., lights out.
Yeah. Which I immediately wrote down of like, she's 17, she goes to bed at 10 o'clock? 50s were weird.
The next scene, she is dramatically saying, sometimes I wonder if I'm a girl or a she-devil. And so she strikes a match, rubs the carbon off, puts some on her fingers and puts it under her eyes.
Yeah, this is the next day.
Yes.
Yeah, just want to clarify, this is not her at 10 o'clock at night.
And roughs up her hair and blouse. And she goes to talk to Mrs. Caldwell and says,
I just wanted to tell you to stop worrying about me. Because I won't be here after today.
You're moving out? Oh, that's wonderful news.
Not Mom and Dad. Just me.
Just you?
I'm running away from home.
Rubbish, you're doing no such thing.
I can't seem to stay out of trouble. I'm just no good to anybody. The only decent thing to do is disappear.
And just sort of laying it on very thick that she's remorseful, she knows she messed up, and she's like, my mother and father will miss me terribly, but I have to go.
Yeah, all I do is mess things up.
And Mrs. Caldwell takes pity on her and invites her over for tea. Smash cut to the next scene.
Yes.
It's Maggie lounging in her backyard, drinking lemonade and eating cake.
Yeah.
And she tells her parents what she did, and essentially makes it sound like Mrs. Caldwell is now just going to blame her parents. And she goes, "It's a shame you let a sweet child like me do the things I do. As the twig is bent, so the tree will grow."
Mm-hmm.
And Maggie just gets off scot-free.
Yep. And that was Maggie.
I really loved the ending of this. I thought it was really funny.
Yeah, I don't think this show really clicked for me until you brought up Doug. And then I was kind of like, okay, I get it now. This is a Doug. This is a Bobby's world. This is where, like, the events of the day are then going to be shown through fantasy through this character's eyes. Then I start to kind of, like, get it more.
So, it's very silly. It, like I said, it really reminded me of Doug. It's like if Doug and Judy were both.
Yes. It is Doug through the eyes of Judy funny. Any bits of trivia you found about this show?
So Margaret O'Brien, who is the lead in this, is a noted child actress known for films such as Meet Me in St. Louis and Little Women.
Okay.
If you've ever heard the song Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas,
yeah,
and if you've ever seen the footage where Judy Garland is singing to a little girl, Margaret O'Brien is the little girl.
Okay.
And the father had actually played her father in that film as well. This aired as part of the New Comedy Showcase. You know how we talked about Television Playhouse?
Yeah, that's where we got like Puppet Man and the Lion's Den.
That wasn't a new concept. That was something that did happen frequently back when shows went off the air for the summer.
Yes.
They would run pilots just to make up summer programming. It airs twice in 1957 and 1962.
Yeah, I think just real quick, because TV is very different now. Right now in the summer, as we're approaching the summer, most of the big network TV shows are going off and are usually replaced with like a game show of some sort.
Yeah.
Like CBS just kind of runs Big Brother most nights. ABC does like their summer of games where like they have like their Holy Moly, which I said would run one season, and I was very wrong when I said that, and I've apologized. And like various other like game show things. Before that, there was a time where all the network shows would go off and they would just rerun them in the same time slot. It was like, here's your second chance to see this episode of Step by Step, The Drew Carey Show, Family Matters, whatever. But before they had the idea of let's rerun stuff, there was just a point where it's like, well, there's nothing to air. So they would just kind of pull stuff and throw it on the air. And that's the era that we're in here for Maggie. And that's how Maggie ended up on TV.
Yep.
So what did you think about Maggie here?
I thought it was a lot of fun. I think it puts a twist on... it's fun to see a female character be a little bit of a pain and a scoundrel.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like we do, in the 1950s, generally see that reserved for male characters.
Yeah. And
she's a little bit of a troublemaker, but again, once I got the idea in my head, she's Doug and Judy funny combined.
Yes. It's... I think, biggest issue with this is it starts so father forward. Like, he's giving us the narration, which is very big main character energy to be the narrator of the show. But Maggie's the main character. I mean, it's named after her. It's so weird that we don't start on her.
Yeah.
Like, this, I think, would be so much stronger if we opened on Maggie being quirky. And then her parents entered, like, Maggie, you need to vamoose we're expecting company. This way, our first interaction between the parents and Maggie isn't Maggie showing up, being our tornado, and leaving. It's Maggie doing her own thing, and her parents being a hindrance to Maggie doing said thing. And then Maggie trying to continue to do her thing even though her parents are there. Just structurally, that would be a little bit more sound.
Yeah.
I also wanted to say, and I don't know what it is, it's kind of an X factor for me. More than any show we've watched, or I've ever watched, this felt more like a play.
Okay.
Than anything I've ever seen. I know it's a sitcom, so there's the whole fourth wall, 3-camera thing, but just the way that the actors are acting, the way that the set looked, the way that it was shot, everything here felt more like a play than a show to me. And I can't quite place why, but in the end, I kind of think it's a little ahead of its time.
Yeah.
And I would dare give this a stay tuned.
I would give it a stay tuned as well.
So that's going to do it for us here at Stay Tuned Studios.
Stay Doomed Studios.
Oh, I was just being more positive. I was being more positive that we were changing the name of the studio. But if you want to talk to us a bit more as we continue on this journey through the summer, be sure to reach out to us through our Discord. We chat in there every now and then about this and about that. And if you have this or that to say, check it out there. You can find a link to it in the description down below. Or where else can people find us?
You can email us at thestaydoomedshow@gmail.com or on Facebook and Twitter. Or on Blue Sky at Stay Doomed.
And if you want to talk to me about your favorite show where a main character has fantasy sequences often, I'm at TV's Noah on Blue Sky and Instagram.
If you want to talk about the teenage panic of the 1950s, I'm Laura Crane on Blue Sky. Until next time, stay doomed.